I want to tell you two short stories. Two stories that have connected by one theme. And the theme for me is the single most important gift that we can be giving to our patients and families. The first story is about an event where this theme actually really seared into my heart as a provider. And the second one is how that gift was then given back to me as a family member. I was working at Stanford Emergency and also doing some evaluations for the heart transplant and heart-lung transplant team. And we're doing an evaluation for a 12-year-old kid for heart-lung transplant. And it was a complicated case. He and his family lived in the Midwest. And the transplant centers around him weren't able to list him because he had some prior surgeries and some anatomical anomalies. So he's being evaluated out there. And this kid was about as wonderful a kid as you'll ever meet. You know how chronic illness can sometimes make you go one way or the other. Sometimes you get a little inward and maybe you're not that easy a person to be around. It can also go the other way and you become the special spirited human being. And that's what he was like. This kid was great. All the nice things that people said about him, they said because it was true, not because he was sick. But who I connected with most was the dad. The dad was an ordinary guy who had an extraordinary love for his kids. This guy loved his kids, and he loved Billy. It was palpable. And this was not an easy decision to make, because he would have to stay in the Midwest with Billy's siblings. Mom and Billy would move to Palo Alto, and you know how that can go sometimes with transplant. You can move near a center to be listed and it not turn out in a big way, and you've maybe spent the last year of your life far away from the people who are closest to you. So it had some intensity, the decision. And the dad and I spent hours together talking about this. What's the right call here? Hours of conversation, and the foundation of those conversations were his abiding love for his kids and the special love for them. The transplant continued to follow, and they would do outpatient appointments, and they'd swing by the emergency department when they'd be in town, and we'd say hi. And they were on their last visit there before Mom and Billy were going to move to Palo Alto, and they were at a hotel, and Billy had a syncopal episode, which was not unusual for him. So nobody got too excited. And they called the ambulance, and Mom and Billy came over to the ED in the rig, and Dad was going to finish up a couple of things in the hotel and drive over. And I was on duty in the ER, and Billy and the Mom came in. Billy went into full arrest and died in the ER before Dad made it over. And we had Mom in the grieving room, and then Dad came in, and she rushed to him, and we lost Billy. And many of you have seen this. You know, he was grief-struck. I went down on the floor, and I got on one side of him, another guy got on the other. We kind of lifted him up a little bit and got him onto a couch. And what happened after that, like I said, just seared into my heart and shaped me vocationally and personally, and taught me this theme, I think. So we got him up on the couch. I sat down beside him, and in about a minute or two, he began to calm and become a little more aware of his surroundings. And he looked over and recognized me sitting there, and he looked at me and he said, "You." He said, "You know how much I love you." In this utterly disconsolate moment, it gave him something, that somebody had a sense of the magnitude of this moment. Somebody had a sense that this wasn't just another patient. This was his heart and his joy. Now, that's a dramatic moment, and that's a crisis moment, but I am telling you, we can all practice with that foundation. And it does not have to be that dramatic. It doesn't have to be in crisis. Every one of us, not just mental health, not just social work, docs, nurses, therapists, admin, technical. We can practice in a way that lets our patients and families know that we have at least a sense of what this very difficult moment holds for them. So, fast forward 17 years. Difficult situation, same truth applies. A young Marine veteran returns home after deployment in Iraq with some serious post-traumatic stress and carrying the deep moral injury of having to do something terrible in order not to die. The Marine veteran is in that painful descent that a father can only watch. First in bewilderment and then in despair. And the father starts with denial. He's just working through some of these problems. He's had a tough time. He's been away. He's adjusting to get back. It's going to get better. It's going to be fine. Not so much. And after time, he's not getting better. And it's not going to be fine. And in that descent, you also see that not only is he just not going anywhere fast, he's going somewhere dangerous fast. And I don't know if you ever noticed how similar the words despair and desperate are. But they're similar for a reason. And in a desperate moment, the father confronts the son on things that he's seen. Because post-traumatic stress can look like a lot of things. It can look like irresponsibility. It can look like meanness. It can look like cruelty. It can look like substance abuse. It can look like these things that sometimes a father should confront a son on. Now let me tell you something that's going to sound completely surprising to you. The confrontation of an adult son with post-traumatic stress by a desperate and frustrated father sometimes doesn't go very well. It's a mystery, you know. Sometimes that is not the best formula for successful problem solving, connecting conversation, and working it out. To witness anybody letting go of what is good in their life and taking hold of what is destructive. To witness anyone letting go of hope is amazingly sad. But when it's your son, there's not a word bad enough to describe it. And into this picture comes a social work case manager, Laura Gomez. Laura Gomez is here. Laura, where are you? Raise your hand. She loves attention. Raise your hand again, Laura. Yeah, it'd be maybe like 20 people afterwards just kind of swarm. She loves it. Laura Gomez took hold of Corporal Zach Skiles and would not let him go. She understood the complexities and pragmatics of the systems in which they were working, and she knew how to engage those systems. She understood that stabilization of the outer life, legal issues, housing, benefits, income, they had to be addressed concurrently with stabilization and healing in the inner life, trust, emotional support, treatment. It is at that point in time, I was going to say, Laura is Catholic, and I know that there's a process for people becoming saints, and I think you have to have a miracle. So at this point in the war, it was often the case that the combat infantry badge or the combat action badge wasn't on the DD-214, and that was the case that happened with Zach. So his DD-214 didn't reflect what happened in Iraq. So Laura took that on. And through extraordinary, and this is what I think could, if you ever get canonized, this could be your miracle. She got the proper rating and benefits applied for him. Not first time, not second time, third time. Got the support letters, got the stressor letters, pulled off a miracle. She also gently but firmly broke through my denial and took over some of the needed confrontation with Zach's symptoms so that it eased some of the tension between he and I. But most importantly, she established a trust with Zach. And on the foundation of that trust, she convinced him it was time to go into residential treatment. And on his very lowest day, she picked him up on the street in San Francisco and physically delivered him to that treatment program. It's like the guy said this morning, whatever it takes. Laura had a sense of Zach's moment, and she had a sense of mine. She understood the depth of struggle that Zach was going through, and she understood that for me, this particular patient was one of my heart's treasures. Now, it wasn't the same kind of situation as Billy's dad, and I'm not going to pretend that it was. But there was a parallel between what happened between Billy's dad and me and what happened between me and Laura. And in a very, very difficult moment, and I didn't make a conscious connection between the two. I actually said the same words, the exact same words to Laura that Billy's dad had said to me. In despair, I said to her, "You know how much I love you." Now, Laura had a sense of the moment. She had a sense of this. But she knew that for me, the moment also contained this. She had a sense of this, and she knew that for me, the moment also contained this. I just agreed to do the talk so I could show family pictures. My wife and I will be showing Grand Canyon slides after dinner. Laura is as tough as nails. She is compassionate, but she is not sentimental. She is not mushy and not a pushover. So while she understands that the moment held this, she knew what her primary focus was, and she knew where she needed to focus, and that was here. And she knew that not everybody in that picture gets to be alive today. Now, it's tempting to wrap things up neat and tidy, especially in a public talk. But life is not neat and tidy. Life is messy. And it disrespects and dishonors everyone's struggle to pretend that there's a fairy tale ending. There isn't. There will still be some tensions, there will still be some challenges, there will still be some sorrows for Zach, as well as for me. And there will still be some tensions from time to time in his and my relationship. Mostly when he doesn't realize how brilliant and wise his father is. What are you going to do? But while it's true that there is not a fairy tale ending, it is also true that Laura's skill and sense of the moment actually changed the trajectory of Zach's life. He stayed in residential treatment for months and goes to outpatient treatment regularly. When he was younger, school was never a safe or successful place for him, ever. And he eventually dropped out of high school, took the GED, joined the Marine Corps. After he got out of residential treatment, he went back to school differently. Last year, he graduated undergrad, summa cum laude. And last month, got accepted into a doctoral program in psychology. He wants to help vets with post-traumatic stress. And if it goes that way, I think he's going to have a good sense of somebody's moment. And I will always be grateful that Laura had a sense of ours. Thank you.